Welcome to a video commentary. It is actually going to be a video of me talking instead of most videos on this channel of me driving places. Today I'm going to talk to you about a meeting I attended about 2 weeks ago now called the US 70 Interstate 42 Corridor Commission. I-42 US 70 Corridor Commission. But before I get into the actual proceedings of the meeting, allow me to give you a little bit of a brief, very brief history lesson of US 70. Okay, this is a multi-lane corridor. Now, US 70 is a highway that goes, all across the country, but this particular commission is tasked with converting US 70 to Interstate 42. Now, right now, US 70 is a multi-lane corridor. This particular corridor that we are talking about stretches from Garner, which is a southern suburb of Raleigh. Okay, goes from Garner down to Morehead City on the Atlantic coast. This is a distance of approximately 140 miles. Okay, some upgrades of this US 70 corridor, and actually the upgrades of this corridor to a freeway. What I mean by multi-lane versus freeway. Multi-lane is a road that has a speed limit of generally 55 miles per hour, and it has traffic lights, and it has cross traffic. In other words, driveways of businesses and houses, and cars can, cut across the median, and cars can make left turns across the road. But on a freeway, you exit on and off, there's no stoplights or any of that, So back in the late 70s, the first upgrade of this corridor was made, and this was from Dover, North Carolina to New Bern, North Carolina, which is approximately a 30-mile stretch, and it gave a southern bypass to New Bern. And then in 2008, we had the first upgrade of the 21st century was the Clayton bypass, which is a southern bypass of Clayton. And, it is a new, or I should say, it's 11 years old now, but fairly new roadway on a new location that its goal is to help take about 15 minutes off the commute time from traffic coming from Johnston and Wayne County into Raleigh. Okay. Then in 2016, we had the new Goldsboro bypass. Now, why do I say new? Well, there is actually an old Goldsboro bypass, but this bypass had a 55 mile per hour speed limit. The exits were very close together, and it was very antiquated for the area. Okay. The new Goldsboro bypass was finished in 2016, has a speed limit of 70 miles per hour, and the exits and interchange designs are a lot better. Okay, and then right around the same time, we had two intersections were converted to interchanges in the Pine Level area. That's a little town between Selma and Princeton, in Johnston County on the US 70 corridor. Now, what exactly is the significance of the US 70 corridor? And let me tell you, there's a lot. Okay, first of all, it connects Raleigh to the closest beach to Raleigh, which is Morehead City, Atlantic Beach, the Crystal Coast of North Carolina. Another thing too is you have Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in Goldsboro, right on the corridor, and then you go further south and you have Cherry Point, another military base between New Bern and Morehead City, right on the corridor. So there's a lot of economic development and a lot of commerce and transportation that is going on this corridor. And in order for things to move a lot more efficiently, it was determined, and actually this was one of Governor Pat McCrory's, former Governor McCrory's accomplishments when his one term in office back in 2016 was to convert US 70 to I-42. Now, you may be asking, why can't they just call it Interstate 70? Well, there's already Interstate 70 goes from Baltimore out to Denver. So, you don't want two Interstate 70s in the same country. It would be very confusing, especially because Baltimore is relatively close to North Carolina, right? Okay. At the meeting I attended, I got two packets of information, and both of them were pertaining to the status of various projects on the US 70 corridor, and I'm just going to go through them. I'm going to go west to east on the corridor, starting in Johnston County. The first project on the books is a upgrade in US 70 to interstate standards in the Wilson Mills area. This goes from just east of where the Clayton bypass ends over to the Neuse River. And this project is set to begin construction in September of 2020. And when completed, it will be possible to go from I-40 in Garner to I-95 in Selma along the US 70 corridor without hitting a single traffic light. Okay, so that'll be very good for the area. Next project is US 70 improvements around the town of Princeton. This stretch of upgrade will go from just west, the western end of the Goldsboro bypass, over to just west of US 70 alternate. Okay, right now this project is just in the preliminary stages. Okay, and right now it is fully funded. Okay, but it is in the preliminary stages because right now it's just in the planning stages. Right now they are determining a beginning date for right-of-way acquisition. Right now it would appear, based on what I've read, that construction on this project, the soonest it will begin is probably not until 2029. Okay, but once it is completed, you'll be able to go all the way from Garner all the way to the east side of the Goldsboro bypass without hitting a single traffic light. Okay, and that was Division 4. Okay, now the NCDOT, the North Carolina Department of Transportation, is divided into approximately 13 or 15 divisions around the state. Each one is a group of counties, and and each division has their own priorities for road projects. And in Division 4 and Division 2, one of the biggest priorities is obviously upgrading US 70 to Interstate 42. Okay. Now let's take a look at the Division 2 projects. We are now east of the Goldsboro bypass. Okay. And the first project that I see here is to upgrade intersection to an interchange, and this is at Willie Measley Road. This is just east of where the Goldsboro bypass currently ends. So this will give another mile or so of freeway to add to the Goldsboro bypass. This project is slated to start in the summer of 2024. Okay. Now we start getting to the big stuff. The Kinston bypass. This project has been on the books since the early 90s, okay? And then it was taken away for a few years, and then it came back in 2007, then was taken away for a few years. Now it's back, and guess what? Now it's actually fully funded in the 10-year state transportation plan. And when I say 10-year state transportation plan, I mean STIP 2020 to 2029. Okay. This project is, first of all, they have to select a route. Okay. And that should be done sometime in February. Okay, February 2020. So coming up just a couple months or so, they're going to pick a route. We're going to have the right of way start in 2022. Construction on this should begin in 2026. Okay. There is a portion just a little bit west of the Kinston bypass, from Albert Suggs Road to the C.F. Harvey Parkway, and that is not slated to begin construction until 2029. Okay, but note that both of these projects are fully funded. Now, is it possible that the NCDOT, because they've had a lot of funding problems lately, is it possible that the Kinston bypass and this west-west bypass could be taken off again? Yeah, but right now, considering this project's been on the books for nearly 30 years, you have to actually like the chances that this project might actually get built sometime sometime before my hair turns gray. Let me put it that way. Okay. Next project is one that's currently under construction. That is the US 70 widening and resurfacing project. This project is done because to make upgrade US 70 up to interstate standards. Now, when I say widen the roadway, I don't mean add lanes to it. I don't mean dualize the road. I mean this is a current 4-lane freeway that goes from Dover, North Carolina to New Bern. Okay. Basically, when I say widening on this particular portion of US 70, it means widen the shoulders out to, I think right now they're 10 foot, and to be interstate standard has to be like at least 12 foot, maybe even 15 on that. Okay. Then there's another project. It's to upgrade a current interchange to interstate standards, and that's in the New Bern area. It is at Glen Burnie Road in US 70. And right now, construction on that is not set to begin until after 2029. Okay. Now we have one of the most congested portions of the current US 70 corridor. Okay, that is going from the Neuse River Bridge down to Thurman Road down to the Havelock Bypass. This is all South New Bern, James City area. This project is supposed to start construction in 2020, spring of 2021. Should be completed by 2025. Okay, and we have an intersection improvement at the Cherry Point Military Base. This is to upgrade a current at-grade intersection to an interchange at US 70 and Slocum Road. This project is, as of November 2019, 83% complete, and it should be completed fully by next spring of 2020. The Havelock Bypass. This is a project that's currently under construction, and it should be completed by sometime in 2024. Now, finally, we have the only 2-lane portion left of the US 70 corridor from Garner to Morehead City, and that is the Newport River Bridge, which is only one lane in each direction. It's going to be replaced with a multi-lane bridge, and that project is slated to begin construction sometime in 2023. Oh, and I forgot, in my history of the corridor of US 70, there was a project on the books that was going to take US 70 on a northern on a northern freeway of Carteret County, well north of Morehead City and Atlantic Beach, and it was going to hook up with the new Beaufort Bridge and the new Beaufort bypass, which was completed in 2017. But the northern Carteret bypass was actually taken off the books at the NCDOT due to environmental concerns, as well as just a feasibility study was done on this road, and it was determined to not be needed. Now, could the NCDOT revisit the northern Carteret bypass? Yes, but right now it would appear highly unlikely that the road will ever get built. But there is still a chance. There's still a chance, but very, very unlikely that northern Carteret bypass will ever get built. Okay. That's all the projects. The meeting took place on November 14th, 2019 at the Goldsboro Events Center in Goldsboro, North Carolina. It started at 1:30 p.m. and the call to order was made at 1:34 p.m. This building is actually was recently renovated by the city of Goldsboro, and it reopened to the public back in 2016. It's right on the southwest part of Goldsboro, and what's kind of funny is it is right kind of on the edge of a really bad part of Goldsboro, excuse me. Really bad part of Goldsboro. It's like you go through the hood and then, oh yeah, there's the Goldsboro Country Club and the Goldsboro Event Center. Oh, how you doing? So I go into the meeting room, and on one end of the venue you had a table of water and soda, which was nice, and they were complimentary too. And then on the other end of the room you had a sign-in sheet, which I just signed my name and I'm a guest. And then they had a nice information packet full of maps and projects and when they're going to get done, and of course the agenda also. The room, you had all the what do you call them? DOT and elected officials sat in a U. When you walked in the room, you directly were like front and center of the meeting room, and all the DOT people were sitting in a U shape, okay? And then to the side of to the right of the U was the guest seating area. And the problem with this was when a lot of the people spoke, they had one microphone, and it was at the front of the room, okay? But a lot of the people chose not to go up to the microphone. They just chose to sit at their seat and talk. And the guest seating, a lot of the guests, including yours truly, there was a row of the DOT elected officials in the U shape that had their backs to us. So it was very hard to hear some of what was going on at this meeting. Another pet peeve of mine is that there were more empty seats in the U shape than there were in the guest seating section. Yet, a lot of people who were on the agenda to speak were somehow seating decide to sit in the guest section rather than the U section. And this kind of ticked me off because there was barely enough chairs in the guest section, yet, in other words, the guest section was like 80% full, but the U-shaped seating was like 40% full. So why can't these people who are scheduled to speak on the agenda sit in the U-shape rather than sit in the guest section? Especially people like me, if I'm a member of the general public and I'm not an elected official or a DOT person or a government person, and I go to these meetings, I want to be as comfortable as I possibly can. So therefore, I really don't, I really respect my space, and I really don't like it when people sit next to me, yet there are plenty of empty chairs in another part of the room. It's just it's kind of like when I go out and run errands. I go to the grocery store, I'll usually park towards the middle or the back of the parking lot, okay? Yet sometimes what happens is somebody decides to park right next to me, even though there are plenty of parking spaces between, myself and the grocery store. It's like, why do you want to park right next to me when you can park a lot closer? I choose to park further away because I just don't like strangers parking next to my car. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same way too when you go to a meeting and you don't know anybody there. I like to sit by myself. I am an introvert. I'm a very private person, believe it or not. Okay, so the meeting, we did not have a DOT report because General Hugh Overholt and Gus Tullis were at the ribbon cutting ceremony on this particular day of the new US 70 bypass of Pollexville and Maysville. Okay, and this project was to the result of this US 17 project was to make US 17 a full 4-lane divided highway now from New Bern to Jacksonville. Okay, before that, US 17 was only a 4-lane highway from Jacksonville to Belgrade, which is only halfway between Jacksonville and New Bern. Now the whole corridor from New Bern to Jacksonville is four lanes on US 17. Excuse me. Okay. Chief Engineer Report Tim Little from the DOT said, yes, there have been funding woes at the NCDOT. This is, of course, due to the MAP Act especially, and hurricanes. And what's the MAP Act? Well, it was a piece of legislation passed, I'm going to say sometime in the 90s, maybe the 80s, where the DOT could protect a piece of land from development for a future roadway project. Yet a judge last year ruled this to be unconstitutional because the problem was, it was taking so long for the DOT to build on the land, and there was a lot of red tape with the landowners. They couldn't get fair value for selling the land. They couldn't put anything on the land, and all this, a lot of legal gobbledygook, if you want to know. So the DOT had to pay out close to, I think the number that was $200 million to $300 million in settlements. Okay, and then talk about the hurricanes. Well, the DOT from 2005 to 2015 budgeted $66 million a year for roadway maintenance. However, the cost of roadway maintenance since 2016 has skyrocketed to an average now of $220 million. Yeah, that's almost a 400% increase we're talking about. That's wow, that's crazy. Okay. A new district engineer came about. His name is Kevin Bowen, I don't know. The old engineer went to work at the Global Trans Park in Kinston. Let's see. Division 2 gave a report. I pretty much covered what they said. They talked about Kinston Bypass and the US 70 resurfacing bypass from Kinston to New Bern. District 4 report talked a lot about the various hurricanes that have hit the Craven County, New Bern area. And also it should be mentioned too that it was mentioned not by the District 4 representative, but by somebody else who was in the U-shape. Me mentioned that Governor Cooper has some of the Hurricane Matthew money, and he's not letting it go. And I found this statement to be very surprising, because a lot of these DOT meetings, you're dealing with the topic of transportation. Transportation is all about moving people and goods, and transportation is not a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. It is a bipartisan, you could even say an everyday life issue. And actually there's a state senator, Bill Rabin, who represents Brunswick County down the southeast part of North Carolina. He says that transportation, when they talk about transportation in the state legislature, it has always been, the votes have always been very, there's always been a lot of agreement, a lot of bipartisanship on transportation. And a lot of the projects that they talk about are always, there's overwhelming support from both the Democrats and the Republicans. And then we go to another one of my pet peeves about this meeting is we're going to talk about flood resiliency and mitigation. I think to myself, what in the world does that have to do with the I-42 and US 70 corridor? What in the world does that have to do with transportation or roadways, right? And I found this part of the meeting to be very boring, very irrelevant. It's sad to see that we're turning this meeting into an information management seminar rather than an actual transportation meeting. And that's actually how I felt at the State Transportation Summit that I went to earlier this year. A lot of it was more of an IT/emergency management seminar rather than a transportation seminar, which is why in the spring I found out about a conference that's all about urban metropolitan planning and transportation needs. I'm going to try to go to that one next year. I think it's in April in Greenville, actually. But anyway, just a brief summation of flood resiliency and mitigation. There's been a lot of flooding problems along the Neuse River. The Neuse River does intersect US 70 quite a few times. And what is needed to prevent future flooding along the US 70 corridor is to build a reservoir or a large-scale dam. And this should be built in either Goldsboro or Kinston or even both. But one more thing, General Hugh Oberhold actually came in late, came in right around 2:30, 3 o'clock. But he basically spoke briefly and talked about the US 17 project that was just completed between New Bern and Jacksonville. He said that project had been on the books since, get this, the year 1965. 1965. This US 17 project had been on the books, and believe it or not, it had been finished 8 months early. It was not slated to be completed until next summer, but they got it done in November. Also, they got done the Southwest Greenville bypass as well. They got that done about 8 months early too. So this meeting was just about 2 hours long. It ended at 3:26 p.m. The next meeting is going to be on January 16th. I don't know whether or not I'm going to attend, but hopefully we'll talk about something a little bit more exciting than flood resiliency and flood mitigation, right? So anyway, some things that I'm going to be doing on this channel over the next few weeks. I have currently another Bad Drivers of Greensboro video. I'm currently editing that. Hope to have that up by the end of this week. Also, drove on some roads down right around the North Carolina-South Carolina border, right around Cheraw, Marlboro County, went up to Whiteville, North Carolina through Elizabethtown, some other little U.S. roads and so forth. But probably before Christmas, I'm going to be taking a little 1 or 2 day trip. Might stay overnight at a hotel somewhere, but I'm going to be what am I trying to say? I'm going to be looking at some new road projects on the east side of North Carolina. The first one is going to be the new portion of the Fayetteville Beltway. Okay, and this portion is going to be from the All-American Freeway down to Cliffdale Road. The next project after that on the same trip will be the US 17 upgrade from New Bern to Jacksonville, and then finally the Greenville Southwest bypass on that particular trip. And then maybe sometime in the spring I'll head down to Myrtle Beach and take a look at the new Route 31 Southern Extension on that thing as well. So a lot of things I'm working on here on this channel as well as on the Conservative Pelican. There's always things going on in politics on the Conservative Pelican. If you ever want to come over there, please join me. But for now, this has been a presentation of Gregarious Drivers of Greensboro, North Carolina. My name is Bobby Crawford. Have yourself a wonderful day.